Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Mike Ames Recruitment Show, where we are going to be talking about real networking, essentially how to build and monetize business relationships on an industrial scale. So, Mike, to do that, it's just me and you today. I am going to be delving into that little brain of yours and pulling out as much information as I humanly possibly can.
God help you. Yes, hello, folks. Tis I. Yeah, this is another way of doing business development, really, just so as you're clear. I think sometimes we term networking, some people, sort of a negative thing, but I don't mean that at all, as you'll see. I mean something completely different, which is why it's called real networking and not networking. There is a big difference between the two. But I'm looking forward to the show. If there are any German viewers or listeners to the show, I'm so sorry. I don't want to get too big on it, obviously, because we're playing tomorrow night. But after tomorrow's game, if we succeed, I might have a little chuckle, which is always a little bit cruel, but Germans always knock us out, so I think it's
hubris, Michael. For those of you who are listening, perhaps not in the last, this is the World Cup we're talking about. Germans recently.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Do you know as well, a penalty shootout, the two German players that missed goals were playing in the English leagues. Been infected by the penalty.
The penalty curse. Well, let's just hope it doesn't hit us. Can we be all cocky after we've got through to the next round?
Should we press on?
I think we should. Right. Okay.
I just want to say as well, right, my machine just turned itself on there because it heard you say something.
Oh, did it? Oh, bless, it's listening to me. Okay, so as we go through, as always, guys, if you're watching this live, please do ask questions. If Mike says something and you want to know some more about it, or if you disagree with him, oh, I love it. If you disagree with him, I'll bring that up. But please do ask as many questions, ask for clarification. If you've got the question, I guarantee somebody else does. So perfect.
Can we start, right, before we ask you a question? If I say the word networking to you, the word networking, so this is the audience, peeps out there, right? Just put one or two words to what that means to you, what that translates into. Anything you like. It can be the actual act itself or how it makes you feel. I don't care. But just put something in the comments that just, when I say the word networking, what that means.
I'll even get you guys started. Warm Chardonnay. There you go. That's what I was thinking of. Okay, so whilst people are putting in their comments and various things, so Mike, I want to talk about this. This is another way of saying BD. And I know that you and I both lived through the golden age of recruitment, and that has now ended. So can you kind of explain to us the difference between how BD worked in the golden age, which is what we're desperately hoping comes back, but probably won't, versus the world that we're in now?
Yeah. Okay. So the golden age, for those that don't know, was from about 2011 to about 2022/23, where it was relatively easy to make money in recruitment, and quite frankly, anybody could. Okay. So in those days, to get clients, you could do cold outreach. You could do emails, and if you sent enough of them out, cold calls, if you made enough of them, if you pitched enough CVs, NPCs, going to get some business. Now, it's arguable what quality of vacancy you got and what quality of clients you picked up, but he could make it work. And actually, he did pick up some good vacancies and did pick up some good clients. Those days are gone now. The market has flattened, rise of TAs, rise of AI, and also just the economy just being tighter, really. Less vacancies kicking around, which is significantly less than there were. So it's harder. That approach doesn't work in the way that it did. Now, let me tell you something, right? So if your business has been going for some time, you can do this at home, right? You can look at your client estate. And I bet you when you do that, the Pareto law will apply. A smaller number of clients will generate a larger amount of your revenue. It might not be 80-20, but it won't be that far off. Then a second analysis on your 20%ers, on those higher value clients, will reveal, I'm willing to bet, that the majority of them came to you through a relationship. So it could be you met someone wherever and built a relationship with them, or it could be an introduction from a client or a candidate, or it could be a client has moved from one company to the next, whatever. But that client almost certainly will have come from a relationship. And that really now is how BD was done in the 80s and 90s, and now I believe it's being done again now. It's a relationship, not a transactional driven marketplace. That's the big difference. And that's why real networking and a real network is so important, because that's where the money comes from. It's amazing.
Perfect. So we have had some comments, Mike. So we've got one person on the more optimistic side of networking. They believe it's about new connections
Yeah.
and opportunities. We agree. If I'm at the more pessimistic end, and then Graham has sort of said that most networking is too similar and that we have to get back to actually doing the work, which is very much of what we are talking about. Paul has come in and said that you're wearing your lucky shirt today.
Why is it lucky, Paul? Let's ask Paul why it's lucky and see what.
That's you to tell me why it's lucky, and I don't think I want to know actually.
Because it's lucky he hasn't got one like this. That's why. That's an old joke. Anyway, let's get into it. So,
right, okay, Mike. So let's move on. So we kind of know what it isn't. We're not talking about standing around in a room, drinking warm Chardonnay, eating stale canapes, having the same conversation. What is it that you do? Oh, okay, and then moving on. That's not what we're talking about now. We're talking about it with relationships. So can you define a real network and real networking?
Okay, right. So a real network, it's very simple. It's a group of people who are willing and able to help you in your personal and professional life. They're able to help you because you've selected them for that purpose. They're of some use to you. They're willing to help you because you've done something for them, and there's a relationship between the two of you, right? So preferably they owe you a favor. That's preferably the way it goes. But they like you and they get on with you, because we like to help our friends, and that's where you're heading towards. These may not be friends, but they're heading towards the friend zone. That's why they're willing to help you. So if you had a group of people around you like that, they're chosen because they could be of some value to you. You've given them more than you've asked for in return. So we're not exploiting anybody. If anything, it's the other way around. They're exploiting us. Then that's when the magic happens. That's when empires get built. Funny enough, I had a conversation with a client this morning, and I've spoke to them for about a year, and I was amazed at how they'd come on. And the two things they're obsessed with, one was quality in delivery. The other one is the vast majority, like I would say 95% of their clients came from their extended network. They're very good at networks, real networks. So I think real networks is this collection of people. Real networking is anything that you can do to add people to that group and strengthen those relationships. That's what real networking really is. So going to events, if that works for you, well, fine. If you meet people there and you start relationships there, go for it. If they're high value people and they're the people that you want, yeah, it's absolutely fine. But that in itself is not real networking. It's an element of it. It's a part of it. And I think you have to get that into your head. And it drives me mad when someone says, oh, I've been to a networking event. No, you've been to a meeting event. In actual fact, we call it lucky dipping.
Yeah.
Excuse me, because that's what it is. It's lucky dipping in the hope that you meet someone. Well, fine. If that works, go for it. But really, if you don't like that or that doesn't work for you, there are lots of other things you can do, as we will talk about later in the show today.
We will. In fact, we're about to go on to it, because part of, I think, the problem is, particularly for those who are newer to either an industry or sometimes like a sector, if you're in a recruitment company, you're trying to change sector or something, going to a physical event is a great way of doing it, because you're like, I'm doing something, it's easy. But if you're more inexperienced or you don't know what the lingo is or whatever, that can be difficult. So Mike, can you tell us a little bit about how we can add people to our network who are going to be our real network, as it were?
Well, I think I'll start with events. There could be online events or they could be in-person events. Yeah, sure, that you can meet people. And they may not be the end clients that you're looking for, but they could be intermediaries, people that can introduce you to those people. So if you know your market well enough and you've done the analysis on where your clients come from and the clients themselves, where they go, what kind of things they're involved with, then you can decide whether it's a good use of your time. I think many people default to going to events because it's like, well, it is BD. You know, it might not generate, but I'm doing something. I'm actually making a positive progress. But I don't really think, in actual fact, that you can be sidetracked by that. If it works for you, go. That's fine.
I think you can increase your chances with events as well. Like conferences are great. If you're going to a conference and there's somebody in your network and you say, are you going? Great. Why don't we grab a coffee when we're there? It sort of combines the two. You can be intentional at an event and do prep work, can't you?
Yeah, networking, real networking is anything to do which builds or strengthens the relationships. That's what it is. So, like if you're going to somewhere, like you say, and I do this a lot at the expos, I find out who's going, so we should meet, especially if I've not met them before, because meeting someone is a big step in the relationship building process. So yeah, for sure it is. But that's not the only way. The best way is introductions by a long chalk, because cut straight through to it. It's like this person needs what you've got, and this person has got what you're looking for. I think you guys should talk to each other. Oof, oof. Right. If you can get them, then they're the best things to do. And of course, the best way to get to get introductions is through a strong network, and to be really, 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 really good at what you get paid for. Most of the people out there, it's recruitment. So if you got those, if you can tick both of those boxes, you're going to get more introductions and referrals. So,
and you can also ask for introductions and referrals. You don't have to just wait for them to come to you out of the goodness of people's heart. People don't tend to think like that as a general rule. They're busy in their day to day. So you can be intentional. You can ask for introductions. You can.
It's the number one. I mean, we're overstepping the mark a little bit because we're going to talk about this in a minute, but it is the number one way to start a conversation. So yeah, you can ask. Sure, you can if you feel that you've got a relationship strong enough to do that. Sure, you can. Yeah. But and the other thing, of course, which I left to last, is LinkedIn.
Obviously,
because that's where we meet most new people these days. In the sense that they become aware of us because we invite them to connect, or they invite us to connect. And there's lots of things you can do about that. I tell you, I don't want to go back to the LinkedIn discussion that we had when Darren was on the show last week. By the way, if you didn't watch that, you need to check that out. It blew us away. Completely changed the way in which we've been using LinkedIn, with massive impacts. I changed the way in which I write and publish now. You can go and look at my posts, and the amount of interactions and views, I'm back up to the 10, 12, 20,000 impressions again, just because of what he said and what I did. But the reason I mentioned that is on the back of that, I've had a slew of people looking at my profile, the ones I'm interested in, then I invite to connect, and something like about a 600% increase in invitations to connect with people that I'm interested in. So I think if you use LinkedIn properly, it is a great way to connect. But Kirsty, big but there, that just leaves us with a connection, doesn't it?
It does. And I do want to ask you about that in a second, but I have got some comments that I would like to bring up first, because I think this comment perfectly sums up how beneficial a real network can be. So somebody said, one of my clients has just employed my daughter as she was made redundant twice. Can't get a better relationship than helping my family. And those people clients that you do have good relationships with will help you because they're basically friends.
Yeah, because hopefully the relationship bank account is in the black for you. You've done more for them than they've done for you, and therefore, when you call on a favour, it's much more likely to be realised. Yeah, great comment, love it.
Perfect. And then Graham has put, real net relationships and trust can only be built by sitting in actual conversations where work is being done. Most networking is still surface level, people selling where no elevator pitches, listening to speakers, going home with a tote bag. Many events create FOMO moments, not actual value. I wonder your thoughts on that.
It's true, yeah. I think it's a good point, Graham. Thank you. I think it is looking at an immediacy. I've got to meet someone and do some business quite quickly, and we're going to look at some numbers next, actually, which kind of disprove that in the way that the real world works. And I think that the sooner you get away from the idea that you're going to meet someone and do business with them, and if you don't do business with them, then they're out the door, got to go on to someone else. The sooner you move away from that, which is old-fashioned networking, and you move into real networking, it's completely different. You have to abandon the world that Graham just described.
Yeah. So talking about that, he said we have to sit in real conversations, which is what we believe as well. So I think one of the hardest things to do is to start a conversation, particularly in this world. Everybody's very busy. Everybody's being sold to left, right, and center and being pitched to in various things. So to start a conversation to be actually different is quite difficult. So how are we supposed to do this, Mike?
Okay, so interestingly, there's a lot of data around this, a lot of research. Gartner's done a couple of big studies, and there's another one which we looked at. I can't remember its name now, but the data seems to kind of correlate. And we did some original research, if you remember, Kirsty, when we did some outreach campaigns for some clients, and we gathered the data. And quite frankly, the data sorts of coalesce, right? So reach out to 100 potential clients, say. Could be people that you know, connected with on LinkedIn or whatever, or you've met them or something. And the stats tell us that between 5 and 10% of those people, probably I think in our industry towards the 5%, but who knows, 5 to 10% of those people have got a need and will talk to you. It's quite low. It's quite low because people don't have needs all the time, and also they have incumbent suppliers. So they've got a need, but don't want to talk to you because they're going to use who they've always used, right? But around about 5 to 10%. Around about 20 to 30%. In ours, it pushed up to 45% in our research, but let's zero in on 30%. Let's go with that because it's kind of halfway house. We'll talk to you, but they don't have a need right now. So they're open to a discussion for all sorts of reasons, but they don't have a need. And then the remainder, which kind of like 60%, I suppose, ish, 60 to 70%, they're just not prepared to engage at all. Now, that's nothing personal for you, of course. It's just that they haven't got a need, or they're very busy, or they have suppliers that they like and they've got no intention of using anyone else. Who knows? But the point is those kind of numbers seem to apply in all the studies that we've looked at and our own original research. So, and I think that's really interesting because it shows that the majority of people don't want a conversation with you. In fact, in the Gartner report, I think it was 73% do not want to talk to somebody unless they've got a specific reason for doing so. Okay. So we're going to need to change the narrative, because if we're trying to start a conversation with someone based upon the fact that I do this thing, have you got a need for this thing? Because if so, we should talk. Which again goes back to what Graham said, going to events like pitches and stuff. It's like, well, okay, hey, look, we do this. If you're the kind of person that's got this issue, well, I'm the kind of guy that can help you with it. All of that is transactional. And it only means you're striking between 5 and 10% of the people out there, because everybody else just isn't interested. So we need reasons that will change the narrative, change the dialogue a little away from can I sell to you to something else. Probably can I help you? Right? There's lots of ways that you can do that. The number one is an introduction, right? Because I know it's only a small percentage of the actual things that work that you can do, but if you can use it, bang on, because there's this thing called inherited credibility, whereby somebody knows somebody and they like each other and trust each other. One of those people says, oh, you should talk to Mike Ames. I get some of the credibility from that person, because why would they introduce somebody who they don't rate? Why would they do that?
You like leapfrog a lot of the early relationship building, don't you? Because this inherited credibility sort of covers it. It sort of gives you
comes,
the bridge.
right.
Yeah.
It comes. And usually they're doing that because they know the third person has got a need.
Yeah.
So you're already pushing to the 5 or 10%. So it's really great. So, and as you said, Kirsty, and we've done some experiments, live experiments, by the way. So if anybody has got access to our portal, you can go and watch this, right? It's very cool. There's a workshop that we did, and we kind of did it in the workshop. But if you ask for introductions to the right people, there is a very good chance that you'll get them. We just don't ask anywhere near enough. So that's the first thing. It's really important. The second thing is something that's very close to your heart, Kirsty, which is run a podcast and invite people on as guests.
I love a podcast, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about podcasts in a minute, but actually that to me is a really important one, because we're now producing a podcast, not because we want to do a show every week or because we want to get a lot of downloads or the new Joe Rogan. We just want an excuse to ring someone up and say, do this show. These are some of the people who have been on it. Would you like to come?
Yeah.
Because it's not a conversation. It's changed the dialogue away from can I sell to you to you're important, you know a lot, come on my show and share some of it. Yeah. Completely different.
And it flatters the ego whilst giving you essentially anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours worth of face-to-face time with somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Not talking about business.
No,
talking about business, but
ability to like subtly thread in the way that you work and the benefits that you have and stuff like that.
There's no saying that people buy from people, but that's not actually true. People buy from people they like, trust, and feel valued by, and so you've got to have an opportunity to build up that like part, the rapport part, and that time is perfect for that. It's great. If anybody's interested, Kirsty, maybe after the show you could put a link in to when we had that lady on who talked about setting up a podcast and getting business from it.
I will, yeah. If anybody wants it.
Very good.
You just put a 1 in the comments. I'll send you a link on it.
It was very good. She's brand new business, and she'd already picked 2 or 3 clients up from starting this podcast. So very good indeed, right? So podcast is really interesting. The next is an invitation to an event.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you ring someone or email them or whatever it is, look, we're running this event on this subject. You have to get the subject right, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Can be a workshop, so it doesn't have to be something big. It can just be a Teams call.
It could be a live podcast, kind of like this. If you want, you can kind of combat the two.
So many of you will have been invited today with a live introduction to a live event, right? It's a way of building putting another layer on the relationship bridge, which I'll be talking with you later. So an invitation to an event is great. We couldn't function without events. It's so important for us. Don't cost us any money and very little time, and yet it's a great reason to interact. Is an invitation to an event.
If you are the kind of person who is unable to run one by themselves, maybe you're a solo, you don't have the bandwidth, various other things, there is always a way, by the way, but you can invite people to other people's events. Like if there is a conference, you can say, I'm going to this fringe event at the conference and I can get a spare ticket. Would you like to come? There are other ways that you can use other people's events just as well as you can use your own. So don't get stressed about it.
You very much can. Yeah, you absolutely can. So I think events are really good because, again, it's changed the dialogue. Trying to sell to you, got this thing, I want to add value to you. You come to this thing, you'll learn something or meet some people there or whatever it is. I think the next thing is chunky content. Which events are chunky content? Chunky content is content almost good enough that you would pay for it. It's that damn good. The typical example that we all wheel out is the old salary survey, which is enormously valuable because it tells clients whether they're paying too much or too little, whether their benefit structure works in the market is it competitive? Is it going to attract people? That's perfect, really. It's good, almost good enough if you weren't inundated with them. If it was the only thing there and someone said, would you pay $20? Someone says, yeah, I'll pay for that because it's really, really useful for us. That is chunky content. So you can do lots of things around there, tons and tons of stuff. My advice is based on original research. That's my advice. So we could take the transcript from this show, turn it into a 3-page document that talks about how to leverage your network and make money from it and offer it to people. You should never give it to people. That doesn't work. What you do is ask them if they want it. So if you're sending an email, you can describe it in some detail, get them fired up about it, and then say, just let me know and I'll send it to you. Or you can ring them up and say, look, we've been talking for some time. I've just produced this thing. Would you like to see it? So it's really good, works really well. And then the last thing is request for help. Weirdly, you wouldn't think a lot of people were that interested in helping, but they are.
Well, psychologically, it's one of the best ways. There's been loads of studies on it in psychology and stuff. If you ask someone for help, they're more likely to be your friend.
Yes, isn't that strange? But we don't do it because we think, oh, well, they would never help us, or it's an imposition, or then I'll owe them something. It doesn't quite work like that, really. I mean, all of us like to help others, don't we?
Provided it's not, provided you're not asking for them to help you move after the second time you've met them.
No.
It has to be proportionate.
Could you lend me £20 until the end of the week? Perhaps no. But normally, if you make it clear what it is that you want in the approach, normally their opinion or their knowledge is what we're looking at here. Yeah. So it's something they can give and still have. Then there's a good chance that they will connect with you. Also, by the way, this is not best done cold. If they don't know you, and then suddenly you get like a request out of the blue for help, it's like a bit weird. But if you've had some interactions online, perhaps, or you've met someone physically or whatever, there is some grain of relationship. It's a thing that can accelerate the relationship very greatly.
And we will talk about that in a second. But a really good one as a request for help is, hey, I've sort of formatted this thing. Can I get your opinion on it? Like, as in, I've got this vibe. Would you read it and tell me on how interested you are on a scale of 1 to 10? It's like 5 minutes worth of help. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be really helpful. So in a second, Mike, we're going to talk about how we would build relationships with people who aren't ready to buy from us at all, that in that 40 or 45%, 30 to 45% world. And we're also going to talk about how we can monetize that relationship.
We are talking about monetizing relationships. Oh, yes.
Yes, we will be. But before then, once again, it is time for a message from our sponsor. And once again, that sponsor is us.
Yes, it's us, isn't it, really? Okay, I'm going to talk about Kirsty's workshop that she's got coming up. Now, I'll ask for feedback because she just ran one that was an enormous success and she's already got 2 or 3 people lined up for this new one. We're very keen. We want people to buy into this live podcast situation, which is what we're on right now. You can take what Kirsty says and easily implement it as a recording podcast. That's dead simple if that's what you want to do. But the more difficult one is the live podcast, but it's the more powerful one because you can log who is coming to that event, which you can't do on a regular podcast. You can't see who that is. So it's free. We just want people to buy into this concept. And it is how to run your own live show, just like this one that we're doing right now. So essentially, what we're going to do is help you choose a compelling topic. That is probably the most important thing because without that, people won't come. So you need to know how to do that and how to make sure that it is a compelling topic. The structure of the show, the format, as it's sometimes called, we have a format with our show that we stick to religiously. It's a very good idea to do that, to find your own or just steal the one that Kirsty will give you. How to invite guests if you're going to get guests on the show. We have a lot of guests on our show, as you know. And there is a way in which you can do that and the way in which you can find these people, which I'd say it's one of my favorite things about the show now is coming up with people that we can bring on and talk about something which we do for you guys, for our audience. How to get lots of attendees. We want between 80 and 120. We don't want too many for various reasons, but how to get those people there. And then how to use it as a powerful sales tool, right? So there's a lot that we cover in the workshop. Now, it's 1 hour, although I'm guessing if it drifts over a bit, people are best not booking back-to-back meetings with your workshop.
I allow like 15 minutes at the end for if there's loads of questions at the end.
Okay.
Things like that.
Okay, so it's a bit loosey-goosey. It's a workshop after all, right? Okay, it's fair enough. It is free of charge. We want people to really get into this. There are no sales pitches at all on it. It's not about that. So don't think it's going to be some sales fest because it's not. It's 1 p.m. on a very, very special day indeed.
That's Mike's birthday. The 15th of July is Mike's birthday.
I should be taking that out with Mrs. Ames. Not sure what. Yeah, big surprise for me. And then it's a small number of attendees. What are we looking at here, Kirsty?
No more than 8. So I've already got 3. I think a 4th has just been sent the info. So we're about 50% booked.
Okay, and what you'll get from that is a set of notes and the key screens that she uses. So not everything, because it doesn't work without Kirsty, but some of the key screens you're going to get a copy of. Now, if you're interested, you just got to put live in the comments. Or if you're listening to a recording or watching a recording of this, then email live to kirsty@flair.co.uk. And she will respond with you got a little sheet I think you send out to people.
Yeah, just a little more information on kind of what it is that we cover and if it's something you want to attend. And very, very simple. It's not.
We are very keen on it because we see it as a major way to build rapport, affinity, to invite on guests that potentially could be clients, and also to attract attendees who could potentially be clients. It is very, very powerful. So if you're interested, my advice is to attend that.
It's also a great way for you to create content, to give you information to make creating content, LinkedIn posts, the things that Mike spoke about. It's a way to make those a lot simpler for yourself. So it all ties in together. Okay, thank you very much. So, Mike, we've spoken about we need to build strong relationships with people. And the majority of people aren't ready to buy from us, but some of them would potentially. Now, we discuss the relationship bridge with regards to this. Could you share a little bit about what that relationship bridge is?
I will, yeah. So just recap what Kirsty said there. So the majority of people aren't ready to buy right now. So if you're a transactional networker, you're going to be disappointed 90 to 95% of the time. It's going to be an utter disaster for you. However, if you're just looking to start a relationship and keep that relationship going until that person becomes one of the 5%, the time is right for them to buy whatever it is that you sell. Completely different game. Completely different. So what we want is to visualize how this works. So we've got people who aren't ready to buy right now, but they're ready to kind of engage a little bit around maybe content or events or something that you got, right? So what I want you to visualize is a ravine, a deep ravine with a fast-flowing river at the bottom of it. You're on one side, your potential client is on the other. You can't reach them. Every time you interact, It puts a layer on the relationship bridge. When that bridge is strong enough, you can walk over and ask what you want. Or if you're lucky, they'll walk over and ask for what they want from you. That's an inbound lead, right? So every interaction puts a layer on the relationship bridge. Now, some of those layers are quite thin. So a LinkedIn comment perhaps could be one of them. Some are medium-sized when you invite them to an event where they're genuinely going to get some value from it. And some of them are very chunky. If you introduce a person to another person and they make some money out of that, that is a very thick layer, right? So as soon as that bridge is thick enough, you can walk over and get what you want. And of course, you can test the bridge. We're not going to go into that today because it would be too much, but you can test the bridge to see whether it's strong enough to get what you want. But what we're talking about is building that bridge through interactions. Now, there are two things about interactions you should know about. Number one is the channel or the type of interaction. So I'm going to give you the interaction types in the order of their strength. Okay, so the strongest is an in-person meeting. Of course, not always possible, but by far and away the strongest. The second is a video call, because of course we've got body language. You can see people and not just hear them, we can read them. The next one is a telephone call, because that again, we've got some interaction there, some interplay. Then is instant messaging, so WhatsApp or something similar, because the relationship has got to a certain strength for me to be able to send you a text and for you to reply to it. It's not weird. Then we've got standard messaging, which is emails and LinkedIn. And at the bottom, but actually it's not at the bottom, it's a trigger for any of the ones I just mentioned, is to send something through the post. So if you send something through the post, it could trigger a meeting or a telephone call or a WhatsApp or something. So it's a great thing to do, right? So those are the channels, and we can use all of them, and we should. We can mix it up. So the messages can be written messages, they can be audio messages, they can be video messages. You can play with this to see what resonates. Because one thing you can't be sure is how people like to be communicated with. And of course, the other thing is the stronger the relationship, the further up that chain you can go. If you know someone really well, you can ring them up and say, hey, I'm going to be in town, fancy a coffee? Yeah, sure. Not weird at all. If you don't know that person that well, it's a little weird. Maybe it's a little awkward. So the first thing is the channels, and be aware of all of them and use them as best as you can. The second is what's called an RTI, or a reason to interact. This is really important, because transactional business developers, their reason to interact is to get some work. Okay, well, good luck with that then. You might hit the 5% just at the time when they're a bit pissed off with their existing suppliers and they're open to a new supplier and yada, yada, yada. Right? You probably won't. So we want other reasons which are non-transactional, because then whether the person is looking to buy or not, it's irrelevant. This is a good reason for me to interact. Of course, some of the things we've already talked about are great reasons to interact. Adding value is a good one.
Podcast, inviting them on a podcast.
Podcast invitation. The conversation starters that we talked about can also be ways to add value. Right. Now, the other thing is, it's an interesting thing. When the relationship, when the rapport gets to a certain strength, because what you're looking in relationships, to be very clear, is rapport. It's like human connection. How you get on with someone, you like them, and they're interesting people, right? Trust, whether you actually think they're a trustworthy person, someone you can trust with whatever it is that you have, and confidence. And that's the most important one. Confidence that what they say they can do is what they can do, and that it meets a need for you, right? So it's rapport, trust, and confidence. That's what we're building layer by layer. That's the deal, right? So one of the things that we can do when we get to know somebody is really well is you can just ring them up and say, how are you? That can be a reason to interact. It's not weird at all, because they're practically friends. They're people that you've perhaps met, spoken to several times, haven't spoken for ages, thought of you. How the devil are you? And it's not weird at all. It's like ringing an old friend. It's not weird.
You have one of the things that you have is you communicate with Gary Larson cartoons. So you see ones in like a newspaper or in a book, and you just send them a little picture of it via text. That's enough as an RTI.
Richard. Yeah, he does. And or it could be around, football teams or sports teams or anything. Basically, I'm going to a space. Have we got time? Yeah, a little bit.
We're okay. I'm moving on in a second.
Into a space I hadn't planned to talk about called Pacific data. So Pacific data is the data that you learn about people to build relationships. forget work or non-work, it's just human relationships. So see if I can remember these. I'm always terrible with acronyms. So P is preferences, aspirations, challenges, interests, family, incidentals, and circumstantials. So that's classification of information that you can learn about someone. And the idea is you learn about that and then you react to it. So you learn that someone's football team is the Wolves. They win, you send a text saying, oh, the Wolves won. I mean,
that rarely happens, though, to be fair to us.
Going to next season, though, tell you that, right?
Yeah. Or maybe they were going to run the London Marathon, and 3 days later, you send them a message going, "How did it go? How are your feet?" Or something.
Ring them up if you know well enough. If you can get to that level in those hierarchies, say, "Yeah, hey, how did you do? Tell me how it went," or something, right? So you're learning stuff and reacting to it. That's what builds rapport. We've got a whole course on this that we don't sell at the moment, but we may at some point in the future. But we've got a whole course on building rapport and affinity and trust and confidence. And that's how you do it. And the best way, giving away all the secrets now, the best way to learn about other things, I'm going to test Kirsty. She won't know the answer to this, so I'll ask anyway. What's the best way to get someone to open up and tell you something about them? Oh, she thinks she knows.
I think I know this. You share something about yourself first.
Damn it. I was going to catch you out. Yeah.
So proud of myself for that.
Yeah, it's true. If you share something about yourself, other people will share something about themselves. Right. So anyway, so that's kind of about building that trust and rapport that you're looking for over time, layer by layer on the relationship bridge. Right. So if people aren't ready to buy, that's how you strengthen the relationship. So perhaps at the time when they do have a need for whatever it is that you sell, now they feel confident that you're the right person for them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask the last question now, which is going to be around monetizing this. So I'm going to come to this, but we are coming towards the end of the show. If you do have any more questions or comments, or you want to push back on Mike, please do put them in the chat. So Mike, we've got this relationship bridge over the chasm with the rushing river. Now, some people, once it's strong enough, like you say, they may just walk across the bridge of their own volition. They may just be like, "You're the lad I need. Let's go for it." However, most people are going to need a nudge, right? They may not realize the relationship bridge is even there. You're going to need to ask. So how, once I've built this, I have a strong rapport, they trust me, they're confident in the fact that I can do what I say I do. How am I now supposed to monetize this relationship?
It's much easier than you think, right? It feels weird if you don't know them very well. If that relationship bridge, excuse me, if that relationship bridge isn't very strong, and it is weird, quite frankly, it's a bit too soon. It's about going out with a man or a woman and on the first date, asking them what babies' names they like. It's like, ooh,
bit much.
Weird. Time to go to the toilet and not come back. So there's a timing thing here, right? But when the relationship is of a certain strength, it's absolutely fine to say to them, look, everybody has a slightly different flavor of recruitment. It does the same thing. It puts a bum on a seat, really, or well, actually creates a shortlist. But it does the same thing, but everybody's is slightly differently. I would love the opportunity at some point to share with you our flavor of recruitment. So 90% of what we do is the same as every other recruitment agency. You've had to admit the truth, but 10% is different. Some people like what we do, others don't. That's fine. It's like ice cream is 95% vanilla with 5% additives and flavoring.
Some people like mint choc chip, which I think is vile. Some people like a tutti frutti.
Yeah, I'm more of a rum and raisin kind of guy myself, but the basic ice cream is the same. It's just that they add the 5% make difference. It's the same in recruitment, right? So you got to figure out what your 5 or 10% is, your flavorings and additives, and put that into a two-dimensional pitch deck. Okay, it's really important to use something like that. It's the most powerful tool to do. It's fantastic, really. But to present what you do in a compelling and concise and clear and consistent way, which is really important, the 4 C's, we talked about that before. So it's really important to be able to do that. And then when you ask in that way, you're not saying, can I do it now? You're simply saying, I'd like to do this. And if the relationship is strong enough, they'll say, yeah, okay. And you say, when would be a decent time to do that? Very happy to schedule something in to do it. And you'll be surprised when the relationship bridge is strong enough. Pretty much everyone's going to say yes. They say no when the relationship bridge is too weak. That's where it goes wrong. And when I'm teaching people this, it's like always it fails. It fails because the bridge wasn't strong enough. The relationship wasn't strong enough to support that request.
Okay.
When it is, it is. I hate to use dating analogies because I haven't dated since I was 17, 40 years ago. Anyway,
Sure, I'm going to let that slide.
okay. But I haven't dated for a very long time. But chances are you get to the stage you ask someone out, you kind of know they're going to say yes, right? Because you've done the groundwork and you sort of know how it's going to go. And if they say no, it's because you didn't do the groundwork half the time.
So if they do say no, we do have to kind of close in a second. If they do say no, do I go abandon ship? Right, that's it. I'm never working with you again and walk off, or at least cut my losses and be like, I'm going to put my effort into somebody who's more likely.
You have to make a judgment call on that.
Do I keep trying?
You have to make a judgment call on that. So if you believe you've got the relationship as far as it can go, and you ask and they say no, there's a very good chance that they're tire kickers, or they're happy to go for lunch with you or go to the cricket with you or whatever, but it's not going to happen for whatever reason. Personally, if you ask for that and they say no, 9 times out of 10, it's time to move on.
Okay.
Move on to the next. There's plenty out there, isn't there?
Okay, so we are coming towards the end of the show. So in a second, Mike, you've dropped a lot of knowledge bombs today. So in a second, I'm going to come to you and see if there is what the top tip is, and if there's any more questions, please let them in. But before then, can we talk about our show next time in 2 weeks? Because I think this is going to be
it's a sister show to the one we did with Charles Causey a month ago. Charles Causey was talking about how to set up a contract business in the States and the mechanics of it. Well, we have got Clark Wilcox coming on to show us how UK companies can actually target and win American clients. So it's not about the mechanics of doing business in the United States. It's about how you get clients, basically, and it's a really interesting talk. So he's going to come on the show and talk about that, and I'm very excited to have him on. So it's a sister show to Charles's show a couple of shows ago.
Yeah, because as much as we are cousins with our American family over there, there is a different dynamics that you have to learn to sort of navigate. So that we're going to talk
about
that. Okay, Mike. So as I said, today we've talked about a fair amount. We've talked about kind of how different the world is than it used to be. We've spoken about what a real network is and how we can use it to do real networking. We can build our relationship with people. We can add value to them. We can start conversations in different ways. But from your point of view, if anybody, what's the top tip? People are listening today and they're going, I really want to get a real network. I really want to make the most of it. What do I do?
Can I ask a question? I'm going to give you my top tip, right? Mm-hmm. I feel that perhaps we try and pack value into the show, obviously, for people. But I think sometimes we put too much, and we put less in, people would probably take more away. So could you put in the comments if there was one thing that actually you're going to do really resonated, so we can assess kind of what people are getting from this? If you don't mind, just while I do my top tip, that would be absolutely brilliant. And my top tip could be one of them. I don't know, probably won't be, but if you've got time to just in by way of kind of, a nod to us on this, we would really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, so my top tip is very simple, really. You've got a whole network of people, probably as defined by your LinkedIn connections and your little black book, although probably people in your little black book are LinkedIn connections as well, whatever. But I'd like you to just choose one of them, just one, that you've never got to pitch to, but you've got a relationship with. One, if you like, that you feel the relationship really is strong enough, okay? And I just want you to ring them up and say, here, I've been thinking, we've spoken a lot on LinkedIn, we've had a couple of telephone calls, we've met, whatever your relationship can be defined as, and you came to that thing that we ran, or I sent you over that research that we did about what candidates looking for in clients, whatever it is, right, you've got in history. And if you can't find anything, probably the relationship isn't strong enough, right? And just say, look, I would really like the opportunity to just explain to you what our flavor of recruitment is. Recruitment is all pretty much the same, but everyone's different. And I want to demonstrate the differences in my business. So you may or may not like it, the timing might not be right, but I would really, really like the opportunity to do that. Would you be prepared to do that for me? See what happens. Yeah. Who knows? You could even get a yes, couldn't you?
Imagine if someone did this and got like an opportunity to pitch and then work from it. Oh, it would be such good what's juju for our show, wouldn't it? It would be such good juju.
Yeah, see, Paul's made a good point. Bring Paul's comment up there. See, I think we do too much. I think we put too
Yeah,
much in.
but Dave has put a point here that I think you really like. Dave's big takeaway is making sure we make more deposits rather than withdrawals from the emotional bank account. And I like that.
Man,
You're always in the
got to
black.
be in the black. Got to be in the black. That's an old 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with Stephen Covey. Always be in the black in the relationship bank account, man. Yeah, that's good deal.
I like
Okay.
it. Okay,
that's us done, I think, isn't it, Kirsty?
Yes, we have come to the end of the show. So our next show is live. So if you are following us on LinkedIn, then you can go over to the Mike Haynes Recruitment Show page and you'll see it there. I'll also put a link in the comments in a second. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who's watched and everybody who's commented. We do like it when it's a lively chat. So thank you to everybody who has done that. And we really appreciate it. Feel free to consider subscribing to us, whether you are listening to us on a podcast, watching us on LinkedIn, or watching us on YouTube. We do so love to have you in our family. And I suppose I should say thank you to Mike, because he has dropped, as Paul said, a lot of knowledge bombs today. So thank you, big guy.
We'll do less next time, Paul. Sorry about that. Yeah, we'll do less. Yeah, it's probably like a 3-hour workshop is what we just did, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think probably we should have anyway. It is what it is. Don't forget, guys. In the comments, there is a link to this show. You click on that link, you can record and you can come to that, because it's going to be one not to miss. Okay. Well, thank you for everybody. Thank you for the comments. Always welcome. Otherwise, we're just talking to the void. That's what I call Kirsty. Sorry, that was a little attempt at humor there. But look, thank you for the hostess, for the mostess, Kirsty Elizabeth Ames. Brilliant chat.
Enjoy it.
And thank you to me and this shirt. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, probably. We'll see you in 2 weeks, guys.
See you next time, guys.